Welcome back to my class once again. So today we want to look at data type. We've actually done variable. We want to look at data type. Data type will help us understand the kind of data that we are going to put inside the variable. But before we begin this data type class, let me just give you some background information about this particular lecture. My channel is Religion, Science, and Technology. And my goal is to fuse these three together in order for us to really understand how important what we actually believe in, how the impact it has on our individual lives on this dimension. And I'm trying to work on religion from the perspective of programming. And that is what I've been trying to do, and that is what I'm still doing. Now, today I want to talk about data type. In my last video or previous videos, I showed you a demonstration of the computer, because the computer system is a data processing device, right? So I told you about the memory, I told you about the processor, I told you about the operating system, I told you about the hard drive, and then I also talked about the screen. So the same way the computer is designed, because that concept of the computer design was actually taken from a human being. We have not, science has not completely understudied human nature. That is why we are still improving on computer creation. But the fact remains that everything that is being designed, as far as our internet is concerned, as far as our metaverse is concerned, is basically about human system. So today I'm going to talk about data type. Now, what is data type? What is data? Data type is basically talking about the different types of data, right? Now, we are doing Python language. And in Python language, we have what we call the interpreter. So when you write your source code, you actually give it to the interpreter. Then the interpreter, I told you, is like a conductor in an orchestra. It's going to coordinate the operating system, coordinate the memory, coordinate the processor, make all of them work together in order to give you an expected output, which will now be projected on the screen if there's any need for that. Else, it will just be an action that will take place behind the scene. Now, how does the interpreter works with various data that you supply? You know, when you write your source code and you declare a variable and assign data to it, what happens is it is that data that you assign to the variable that will help the interpreter understand the class that that variable belongs. Because in Python, everything is an object. So once you define a variable and you attach data to it, that variable automatically becomes the object of the class. Now, what do I mean by class? What do I mean by object? And then the interpreter will now be able to check your code and see if the function that you have supplied or the process that you want to carry out on that data, if there is a method, which is actually a behavior, that is in that class that supports what you're about to do. If it doesn't, then the Python interpreter will tell you there is an error in your function. So I am now going to try to put them together again. There is data. I told you programming is all about data in one hand, code in the other hand. So these are code are what you call the functions and the procedures, right? Now, everything in Python is an object of a class. But the data that you will supply to this object is what will determine which class it belongs. So Python is known as dynamic data type, unlike C or Java, which is static. Static in the sense that you declare a variable with the data type, and then you supply that data to the variable. So you cannot supply any other type of data to that variable. unless you explicitly declare it with that data type. But in Python, it is a runtime. So if I say a equals to 10, I can come further. I can say a equals to 10, and then I will say print a, and to print 10. And I can now come back and say a equals to John. Because in Python, that variable is a pointer to the memory address of that data. You need to understand this. So what do I mean by class, object, method? Let's take an architect, for example. An architect would design the plan of a building, right? The plan, that plan of the building is what you consider to be the class. Now, you carry that plan and you give it to an engineer to construct that building. Now, the physical structure that you will now see is an object of that class which the architect designed. So you can make as many objects as possible from a single class. Now, it is in the class that you create the method, which you can now call from this object. So the behaviors of the object will be inside the class. Let me go the part of religion. When God said, let us make man in our own image, that is the class, man, that he made. When he said, let us make man in our own image, that is the class, man. So there is a class, man, created. He went further to say, he created them male and female. That is the object of the class, man. So he created one male, which is the object of the class, man. He created the other one, female, which is the object of the class, man. Now, inside this man are method, which is behaviors. All the behaviors of man is inside this class. Now, the object, male, that he now created, took some part of the behaviors, which means he did not carry all the class, all the method of the class, and put inside this object, male. He took a portion and put inside the object, male. And then he took the remaining portion and put inside the object, female. When he came to to chapter 2, where he formed, so take note, make, create, form. These are different stages. Make, create, form. So when he now formed the man, right, what did he do? He separated the female from the male. And he gave them names, variable names that I've talked about. He now said that for this reason, which is what? This class man, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one. That is, the male will be united to the female. Because the class has all the method, and part of this method is what is put in the male. The other part is what is put in the female. When you now fuse, so it will take the male and the female to come together for them to have the completeness of the behaviors that is in the class man. That is what it was talking about. Now, when man now understood this, that is the story of Adam and Eve. When they now understood this, they were now able to create this metaverse in which we are, which is what? This dimension of the body. If you've been watching my videos, I told you that you are not your body. Your body is a memory location. Memory. You are not your body. So this, your physical structure, is carrying the processor, is carrying the memory, right? Is carrying operating system. So you have your heart, which is what? The library that you have the code stored, which is what? The behaviors. The method of the class is in your heart. That is why I say the heart of man is deep. Even you yourself don't understand the fullness of it. Now, you have the brain, which is the processor. And then you have the memory, which is your body. And then you have the input devices that are attached to it. You see? All these things are the same thing that we have used to what? Build the computer system. And then man is now creating another metaverse. That is the metaverse being created by this body. But this metaverse of this body was created by us, which is man that God created. God did not create this body. You created this body. God created you in his image. And the you that God created, he created in 3 dimensions, which is the make, the create, and the form. So the understanding of these 3 dimensions is what you now use to make this body, which is also what? Body, soul, and spirit. You also have the 3 dimensions. And then this same knowledge is what this body is now using to create the metaverse of the machine. So we now have the application, the operating system, and the hardware. Same concept. Very same concept. So today I'm going to look at the concept of data type so that you will understand. And I'm trying to explain this concept of data type to you in this way so that you will understand what I want to teach. You know, when God tests you, when God is going to take you to another level, and God knows that in that level there are certain data that will be supplied to you that will trigger certain behaviors on the inside of you that even you don't know, because your heart is a library of functions which you have carried through the DNA of your ancestors. So there are even functions there that you cannot see. But God is the main person that understands the entire source code. So he has seen certain behaviors that are on the inside of you, that when you get to a particular level in your life and data are supplied, those behaviors will trigger and destroy the whole thing. So before then, he will create a prototype data that he will use to test you so that that behavior will come out. He already has another function, which is what? Forgiveness, grace. Those functions are already existing, which once it tests you with the prototype data of where you are going, and that particular behavior is triggered out of you, those functions will quickly absorb them. And then you are purified. And then you are purified. And then you are purified. Once those methods, which is those behaviors that were already existing inside the class, inside of you that you did not know, are completely removed, he will now move you to that place that he wants you to be. Now, at that point, when those data are now supplied to you, you will not act the way you acted when he took you through the test. This is how it works with human beings. I didn't know this initially too, until I started this research. So this is the same concept that man has used to create these programming languages. So when you talk about data, you talk about variable. When you say A equals to 10, that data, 10, which is the integer that has been supplied to A, will now help the what? The Python interpreter to understand that this variable belongs to the class int. And then you will now go to the class int and see all the methods there. Now look at your function, which is the operation that you want to carry out on that data. He will now look at the function that you supply. If that function, which is that method, is in that class, you will carry it out. So if you supply a string data to a variable, and then you're now trying to carry out calculation on it, in the string class, there is no method that will carry out calculation. So the pattern interpreter will tell you at the spot error. This is the explanation I'm giving to you in order to lead you into what I want to show you. So practically, I'm going to show you in the Python world all what I have said. So let's get right into it. Okay, so this is Python data type. This is what we want to do. So we have Python data types. Now, under these Python data types, we have numeric, Boolean, set, mapping, which is under we have dictionary. Then we have sequence. Now, under this numeric, we have integer, float, complex. Under this sequence, we have string, list, tuple. So I'm going to give you a theoretical breakdown of all this, and then practically we'll see it on our IDE platform. Based on what I have explained to you, you can just follow me, and then let's go through the theory.